Alright guys, I wanted to make a second video about my Poulan Pro blower. This is the Poulan Pro model BVM200FE. I've had this for coming up on 6 years now. I made a video a while back about a problem that I found with the loose bolts on the actual manifold, and that's definitely gonna cause some problems with running, and it may not even start. So if that's the problem you have, go check out that video. I wanted to make a second video because I had a problem recently where it was bogging down a bit and it just wouldn't stay started while it was idling, and it seemed like it was just starving for fuel when in fact it was. So let me show you how I fixed that real quick. So I've taken the tube off just so I can maneuver around a little bit better. The first thing you're going to want to do is take this cover off, and you're going to push it on this red tab and pull it out. Okay, that's going to expose the air filter. This you're going to want to give a good cleaning. You can even use a little bit of soap and water if you need to. What you want to do first is you're going to take these two mounting bolts out that are for the carburetor, and this is a 5/32 inch Allen wrench. So I'll use this end to loosen them real quick. Alright, now we can take these two bolts out. There's one. It's a pretty coarse thread on those too. There's the second one. Alright. Now this plastic assembly can come off, and mine is pretty dirty because I use it around my workshop with tons of sawdust. So I'll probably be using a paintbrush to clean it up quite a bit. Here, you do not need to disconnect the fuel lines. There's two fuel lines there, and there. You don't want to really mess with those too much. To make things a little bit easier though, you can kind of put it at an angle and disconnect that throttle line and just leave it hanging right there. Be careful while you're doing this. You don't want to get too much debris inside there. So what I'm going to do real quick while you guys are waiting, I'm going to cover that up, and I'm just going to brush some of that out of there, because I don't want all that junk getting inside my engine. Alright, that should do it. And I'll go ahead and clean the red piece off camera. Alright, I've got enough of the dirt off of there to where it's not going to get inside the engine while we're working. Might clean it a little bit better later. So this is the problem. This is the part that we're really worried about. So let's clean this while we're talking about it. So this is the carburetor. There is a specialty tool for adjusting this. I talk about it in the other video that I have up on my channel. There's the two adjustment screws there. Let's not mess with those today, because that can be pretty finicky, and I have mine perfectly where I want it right now. So maybe I'll make a separate video if you guys, a bunch of you comment and say, hey, let's talk about tuning this thing. Maybe I'll make a separate video just for the tuning. But what we want to do today is talk about issues with it not running in idle, and maybe it's starving for fuel. Okay, so there's a few screws here. The first one, these first four screws here take off the primer bulb, and what I noticed my problem was when I was priming it, the primer bulb wasn't filling all the way up. It's like it wasn't sucking very much gas. So I thought, well, maybe there's a problem with the primer bulb itself, primer bulb. So if we take these four screws out, you will get some fuel on your hands during this. If you care about that type of thing, you can go ahead and wear gloves. I'm not really concerned about a little bit of fuel. Alright, there's the fourth screw. Alright, and this whole assembly comes apart like that. Okay? Now, There's a gasket there. You want to make sure you don't lose that or damage it. And then this kind of frame goes around the primer bulb. And then there's the primer bulb itself. That just sits in there like that, and that just seals up. Okay, let's leave that side hang for a second. I'm actually gonna just take it off there. Let that side hang. Again, just leave that gasket in place. What you'll see here is the culprit, when I had a problem with this, is that little screen right there. Be careful using any kind of screwdrivers or anything like that around there, because that's just a metal mesh. It's a screen, and I don't know for sure whether or not that is replaceable. So we're not going to risk puncturing it or anything like that. Okay. So what I did to clean mine off, I saw quite a bit of like little black pieces of whatever was in there. It must have maybe dirt got in the fuel tank and eventually got into that screen. But that screen was pretty well clogged with dirt. Okay. So what you're going to want to do here is, I've got a can of compressed air. You can use an air compressor if you have it. And I just kind of blew it out. And just using that compressed air was enough to get that debris out of there. Okay. You may see a little bit more fuel come in from the tank. That's okay. What you're concerned about though is that screen right there being clean. Okay. Once it's clean, you can go ahead and put this side back on. Before I do though, I'm going to give it a quick blow. Make sure that's all clean. I don't have a clean rag next to me right now, or I would just use a rag. But make sure that's wet, good and clean, and put those two halves back together. They kind of fit together. You'll feel them lock in. And then make sure this side is clean as well. It helps if you line it up properly. Okay. Now we're going to drop these 4 screws back in. These don't have to be really tight, but like anything else, tighten them down evenly. So I'll get all 4 of them started first. Before I tighten them. This one. There we go. Alright. Just torque them a little bit. Alright, and then to remount this, you're going to want to give this a good cleaning here. I've got a really dirty rag right here, but I think it'll work. Just make sure you don't have any debris in there, okay, because that is a gasketing surface there. Alright, and then the whole carburetor is going to go right back on, like so. You'll feel the bolt holes lined up. But wait, we need to also put this shroud back on as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the one of the bolts to line up that top hole. There we go. Okay, and I just made a big mistake. If you guys can see it, I'm actually putting this on backwards right now. Because the primer bulb and the flip switch there were on the wrong side. So let's put it on the correct way now, and we'll use that top hole again to line everything up. I'll just get that top screw started. Make sure we're going in there okay. I'll get the bottom one lined up. That feels good. Everything looks good from the side. So we'll screw that in there. And again, this does not need to be overly tight. I would put it finger tight, and then maybe 1/8 of a turn or so. You're tightening down on plastic pieces there, so be careful. Don't over tighten it. You're going to crack this red shroud. Okay. So from there, I'll just give that a little blowout, and I'll use the air to blow out the filter a little bit, run it out of air. But clean that up good, and then that just sticks right in there, like so. Could probably use a new one soon. I don't think I've ever replaced that. And then we will slide this piece back over the top. Now it kind of lines up here, you kind of feel it snap in. And it doesn't fit perfectly anymore. I think over time it's just kind of warped. But that's it. So we'll go ahead and start it up. I'm going to prime it a few times. 3, 4, 5. It feels good. Alright, you guys may have noticed I forgot to do one other thing. I forgot to connect the carburetor. So, off camera, I'm going to take those 2 screws back out and I'm going to get this guy in there. Alright, it's all back together for the second time now. And let's fire it up. There we go. Started on the first pull both times, and everything's back together and working really good. Hope this helped you guys. Thanks, guys.